Pilots and flight attendants have retirement plans, but have you ever thought about what happens to a plane when it retires? Most of the planes end up in storage facilities, they call them boneyards, and soon become scrap metal. But a growing number of aircraft are being reborn and repurposed in some very surprising ways. For example, how would you like to have a plane inside your house? A company called MotoArt in El Segundo, California, can do just that. For over 12 years, this design company has been taking deconstructed planes and turning them into cutting-edge furniture. Co-founder Dave Hall says there's no part of the airplane he can't use, and no end to his supply of airplane parts.
They're actually retiring almost 8,000 aircraft over the next 10 years. So they're trying to figure out, what do we do with all this aircraft? Now, of course, we spun it, made something fun out of it. But when you walk in here, we have dozens and dozens of airframes of old vintage aircraft. And what we do is we make conference tables, desks, bars, beds, everything out of recycled aircraft.
There's even something called the mile-high bed, made with DC-9 stabilizers. I suppose if you're going to have a mile-high bed, you need stabilizers.
We do. You need stabilizers, and you need a good flight crew.
I certainly hope so. Now, it's one thing to have airplane furniture inside your home, but how about having airplane parts as your home? Just a few minutes away from MotoArt in Malibu, California, is a home that seems to glide above the surrounding canyons. It's called the Wing House, and it's the 6-year passion project of owner Francie Rewald. Designed by architect David Hertz, the roof of the Wing House is actually constructed from the wing of a Boeing 747.
It was flown by Pan Am, and they retired it to Tower Air, and then it went to a graveyard out in Palmdale, where there are many airplanes in mothballs and often recycled.
Instead of being turned into scrap metal, this 747 and its pieces were recycled in a different way, as components in Rewald's completely environmentally sustainable home.
We used each wing for the roofs of the main structure, and then above I've got the tail stabilizers, or the tail wings, and then in the kitchen I used parts of the fuselage, and in fact I had them put some hinges on one of the windows so it acts as a pass-through between the office and the kitchen. And then I thought what a beautiful fountain the engine cowling would make. And indeed it does.
It might shock you to think that anyone who's just gotten off a plane would be happy to spend the night in another one. But there's another way airplanes are living second lives, and it brings new meaning to the term airport hotel. First, there's Jumbo Stay. It's a hostel built into a former Boeing 747 at Stockholm's Arlanda Airport. Then there's the Airplane Suite in a decommissioned Russian Aleutian in the Netherlands. This vintage 1965 Boeing 727, which used to fly people on South African Airways and Avianca, the Colombian airline, now rests in the jungles of a place called Manuel Antonio in Costa Rica. But it didn't crash here, it was trucked here. And this cockpit has another new function altogether. It's actually the bathroom of the master suite. Talk about an upgrade. It's known as the 727 Hotel, and owner Alan Templeton spent more than 2 years constructing it. Templeton says the thought of creating an airplane hotel came to him as a whim, but then it took over his life for the next 2 years.
The idea came to me when I was reading Forbes magazine back in 2000. There was an article about a gentleman out of Tennessee that had maybe a dozen old airframes sitting on an airport that he owned. And he was offering a $200,000 fuselage home on top of a 40-foot tower with a gearing mechanism in it. So I just said, well, you know, we could do it down here in Costa Rica. So that's why I got the idea of putting this thing on a 40-foot pedestal right here in the jungle with a nice ocean view.
Most retired airplanes still face the scrapyard, but thanks to a select group of people, these former iron giants are now living a second life.